I'm dead broke. That was basically all the money I had, and rent is due in 2 days. I got robbed for $1,800. Hey, it's Nate the Money Wrangler. I'm back again with another video, and this time we're going to talk about a person who needs some help wrangling a bull on Reddit. So once again, we're going back to Reddit, and this person, the subject is got robbed for $1,800. That's very sad already. As the title says, I got robbed for $1,800. That's a lot of money to get robbed from. We're going to talk about friends and everything else after this. I'm dead broke. That was basically all the money I had, and rent is due in 2 days. I would have been fine if my paycheck hit this Friday, but it doesn't. It's in 2 more weeks. And I don't know what to do. Does anyone have any advice as to what I should do? I just barely started living on my own, and I can't ask my parents for money because of personal reasons. Any tips would help. Well, first off, I just want to say that must absolutely suck. If you got robbed for $1,800, I don't know what the circumstance was or how that happened, but it must feel terrible. And I'll tell you, I know what it's like to be robbed. I've been robbed from men, women, young and old. So believe me, I know exactly what that can feel like. So right now, life probably sucks a lot. You've got rent due in 2 days, you just got robbed, you don't have family who you can really rely on because of personal issues, and so, you're just kind of in a situation where your hands are up and you just want some help. Well, the good news is the Money Wrangler is here, so I'm going to help you with my super unprofessional, unqualified advice to help you work your way through this situation. So first off, you've got $1,800 that's been stolen some way, somehow. At this point, with rent due in 2 days, it's not the most important thing for us to figure out how that happened necessarily. I think right now, if you understand that you've been robbed and it's not money that was, let's say it's some kind of like cyber crime, like coming out of your bank account or something like that. If we're assuming that you were actually like somehow physically robbed, maybe you had a wallet somewhere, had a bunch of money or something like that, or someone you trusted took some money from you. If that's the type of situation, I think it's safe to say that that is the isolated case, and right now we just need to do emergency response. Based on what you're telling me, it sounds like you don't have a lot of savings saved up, so you don't really have an emergency savings or really anything like that. Now, I'm not going to tell you what a lot of people would tell you in this situation. What they would tell you is they would say, oh, well, go ahead and get a credit card, or if you have one, go ahead and load up, whatever you lost, and then pay for the rent, and then everything will be fine. I'm not actually going to tell you that. What I am going to tell you is that there's a strategy to working through this situation in the next 2 days. I'm also not going to tell you to don't sleep for the next 48 hours and do Instacart and DoorDash and kind of run around crazy trying to figure out how you're going to get another $1,800 at least for your rent. I'm not going to say that either. I think the reality is if you need at least $1,800 for your rent, it's not explicitly determined here whether or not your rent costs $1,800. All we know is that you're short. And if let's assume that you're actually really short, like it's over $1,000 and you've got 2 days to get the money. I'm just going to tell you now that you need to come to terms with the idea that in the next 2 days you're not going to have $1,000. And I don't really care what you decided to do. If you wanted to go and deliver pizzas, if you wanted to do DoorDash, whatever the situation is, the probability is you're not going to have $1,000 in the next 2 days. So if that's the case, we need to look at the response. The reality is, wherever you're renting, if you're renting like in an apartment complex, for example, almost immediately after your rent is due and they're expecting the payment and you're coming up short or you don't have it, likely what they're going to do is they're going to post a notice on your door. Okay? Now that notice is just letting you know, hey, you didn't pay your rent, and if this goes on by a certain date, we're going to get you out of this unit. Now what you've told me in this is that you just started basically living on your own, and you would have been fine if your paycheck hit this Friday, but instead you've got 2 more weeks. So what I would recommend is, number one, if you are gainfully employed, you want to go to your landlord. Number one, demonstrate that, explain the situation very clearly, honestly. Just say, hey, look, I don't have the cash right now. You know, I had a situation happen. It's kind of an emergency situation, and I don't have the money right now, but I will be paid in the next 2 weeks. And, you know, go speak with them. It depends on what state you're in, and they might give you a better sense of what the timeline is. And in the best case scenario, they may actually be lenient, which is the best case scenario for you right now. Now, let's assume that they don't evict right away. Lots of times it takes a process. It's a long process for landowners to actually kick people out. And so if you're in that space, if you know that you've got at least 3 weeks and you're going to get paid in the second week, then good. You know, just be on the same page with your landlord. Keep them up to date about what's going on. And so that's what's likely going to happen. You're not going to have the money in the next 2 days. You're going to have to communicate with your landlord, let them know, hey, I don't have the money. What's the timeline? What would the next steps be? And then based on that, you have to figure out, okay, you know, when am I going to get paid next? So another kind of red flag in, you know, your discussion here is that you thought that you were going to get paid on Friday. Well, you didn't get paid and you ran into this situation. And that really is the core of why we have to be budget wranglers, because we have to increase the margin between us and a catastrophic event like this one. But beside that, it also says that you don't know exactly when you're going to get paid. So you're going to have to go to your employer and look at what their payment schedule is. Make sure that they can tell you, hey, on this day, by this time, you will get a direct deposit into your bank account, if they're doing that, or if they're paying you by check or cash or whatever the situation is. So that's what you need to do. So over the next 2 days, it would be focused on communication to both your employer and your landlord. That's what I would focus on. And then while you're in that buffer period, between whenever they determine, either based on state law or, you know, whatever the local law is, that you still have in your apartment before they do things like change locks and kick you out and all of that. In that period, you have to do some budgeting. You've got to look at yourself and say, okay, here's all of the things that I spend money on. Here are all of my debts. Here's all of my income streams. And really understand, if you're in a position right now, you know, once you get that second check, right? Once you get that check in the next 2 weeks, that check, the bulk of it's probably going to go to your rent. So the question is, will you be able to have enough money for whenever rent's due again? You've got to make sure that you have that margin. You've got to make sure you have enough margin for your rent, for food, for your vehicles, and everything else. So that's the process of budgeting. That's super key in this particular instance. So assuming that you're able to do that, you know, then, you know, this problem can easily go away. You'll be able to pay your apartment or whoever your landlord is, the rent money, probably as a courtesy, whether or not they ask for it, you might want to pay extra if you can, just as a good gesture, just to say, hey, look, you know, thank you for, allowing me to do this. Whether or not they did it, whether or not they chose to allow you to do it or not, it's just a good gesture to do. And then moving forward, it's about changing your entire financial picture. You've got to get more organized. You've got to create your budget. That's why we're budget wranglers, because bowls like this, we don't want it to impact us. So that would be my core advice. And then aside from that, you've got some other things that we've really got to work out. You've got a situation where you're alone. There's no one that you can really rely on. You've got parents, but you may have a relationship issue that prevents you from from really communicating to them either the nature of this issue or using them as a potential resource in a time of need. So that's something that needs to be analyzed as well. And then, whether or not you resolve those particular issues with family, whether or not you have friends who are in a financial position to even assist in a situation like this, one of the core principles that you've got to adopt in just becoming a budget wrangler is you've got to increase the distance, the financial distance between you and a catastrophic event. And the way that we do that is we develop things called emergency funds. And that emergency fund contains a certain sum of money that if you lost your entire income for 3 to 6 months, some people will even do more than that, you'll be able to survive on your savings alone. So once you get out of this situation, I know it's hard, but you are going to make it through. You just have to communicate where you are very transparently to the parties involved. You've got to be honest with yourself on how you got here. What was the nature of, how did you get robbed? Is that related to friends or people that you thought were friends? Was that, an online scam? What was the nature of that? You need to kind of do a self-audit on that. And then you also have to be very transparent to both your employer and your landlord so that you can get out of this situation. But if you just do it right, you'll be able to get out of this situation, and then your number one focus has to be on budgeting, listing out everything that goes in and out of your bank account. If you've got any credit cards, you've got to do a complete financial audit. So that's what I would say is my advice in this particular situation. So it's a very tough situation, but I definitely think that you'll be able to make it through. So some tools to help you along that journey in terms of creating a budget. Number one, if you're familiar with Dave Ramsey, he's got this app called the Every Dollar app. There's a free version of the app and there's a paid version of the app. It can work to help you organize your finances and put you on the trajectory of getting in control and wrangling your bulls. So that's what you want to do. You definitely don't want bull to happen to you. You want to wrangle the bulls. That's what we're all about. So that's one option. And then the other option is YNAB.com. YNAB stands for You Need a Budget. In the description below, there are 2 links. There's one to YNAB.com. You can click on that link and learn about what the company has to offer. I've been using their product for a number of months. It's a paid service. And then below that is an affiliate link, or kind of a referral link, really. And if you sign up, for a free trial, you can get the free trial whether you use that link or you don't. But if you decide to use that particular link, you'll get a free month, and I'll also get a free month of YNAB service. So that's what I would advise, is to kind of organize your finances. And even if you don't want to pay, you can still do it in Excel. You can do it by hand. You can get yourself a planner. So there's still a multitude of ways that you can accomplish that. So that's what I would say. I hope everything works out for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This has been Nate the Money Wrangler. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out the description below. You can click on that link. It'll take you to a brand new channel. We're starting to make that up. So if you want to support us, like this video, you can subscribe to this channel as well. And the new channel, subscribe and like and share all the videos over there as well. So thanks for watching, and definitely make sure you become a money wrangler.